and gentlemen, welcome back. And right now we're transitioning into our segment of banking on technology. The events of 2020 forced transformation into India's banking sector, which was already at the cusp of the change. This transformation will be underpinned by developments in the public and hybrid cloud space, microservices based architecture, and artificial intelligence going into 2021. Well, ladies and gentlemen, now we're on our first panel discussion, which is digital banking transformation panel discussion on going digital, the banking transformation journey. As we enter 2021, the banks and the credit unions must rethink the definition of digital banking with the application of data analytics, technology, innovation, and people that will transform customer experiences. We're looking at talking about the framework and policies, the streamlining and integration of channels to ensure a positive and seamless customer journey, modernizing core system applications, processes, and ecosystems with cloud, delivering personalized solutions by leveraging data and analytics and advanced analytics, future of open banking in India, the rise of regulatory sandbox in India, security challenges in the evolving fintech space, digital lenders to disrupt the predominant banking system, safeguarding and building the digital trust, and also looking at answering the question, is India ready to take the Phygital leap to exploit the fintech revolution? Well, ladies and gentlemen, such a great topic this is, and we're joined by our eminent panelists. First up, I'd like to now introduce to you on the screen Jagdish Narayanan, CIO, Geo Payments Bank and Financial Services.
Hello,
Welcome,
everyone.
Narayanan. Good morning, sir.
Morning, everyone. Thank you.
With over 27 years of expertise in BFSI, he's somebody who's been critical in launching startup banks from scratch in all aspects, including infrastructure, application strategy, vendor management, team build-out, and end-to-end implementation. Well, ladies and gentlemen, with this, I'd now like to introduce to you our next panelist, Jagdish PV, the head of Digital Banking Federal Bank. Welcome, sir.
Good morning to everyone and all my fellow panelists and all the attendees.
Absolutely. So Jagdish is a BFSI tech leader with more than 2 decades of experience in general banking, information technology, and digital banking. At Federal Bank, he's somebody who heads the non-branch channels like mobile and net banking, open banking, innovation, and adoption of emerging technologies. Well, ladies and gentlemen, joining us on the stage and screen now is Ajay Kaul, Sales Head, BFSI AMD Inc. Thank you so much, Ajay, for joining us.
Thank you. Good morning to everybody. Good morning to my co-panelists. Look forward for this interesting event today.
Absolutely. So Ajay is an IT industry veteran, ladies and gentlemen, with deep roots in the industry and its transformation over the years. He began his career in the component and DIY industry, working with the biggest names in IT distribution. Well, ladies and gentlemen, now joining us on the screen is Vaibhav Joshi, Chief Digital Officer, Equitas Small Finance Bank. Thank you so much, Vaibhav, for joining us today.
Thank you, Bhavna. Good morning, everyone.
So, ladies and gentlemen, at the Equitas Small Finance Bank, Vaibhav leads the neo-banking and fintech solutions, digital banking business, strategic alliances, digital channels, digital products, payments, transformation, and innovations. And ladies and gentlemen, now it is time for me to introduce to you the moderator of this panel discussion, Deepak Raju, Senior Vice President and IT Head at RBL Bank. Thank you so much, Deepak, for joining us today.
Thank you, Bhavna. Look forward.
Pleasure to have you. Well, Deepak is a dynamic, boundary-pushing leader, ladies and gentlemen, with 21 years of experience in technology management, business and IT transformation and program management office. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for this. We've got our eminent panelists on your screen, and I'd now like to leave it in the live reins of Deepak to take it forward with his panel and have a great discussion. Meanwhile, Deepak, I'm also going to be requesting our audience, if they do have any questions for your panel, to please type it up in the Q&A tab so that if time allows towards the end, we can pass it on to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Over to you, Deepak.
Thank you so much, Bhavna, for that lovely handoff. And I welcome all my fellow panelists and also the audience who've tuned in online. I hope all of you are safely tucked at home. And I do want to extend my warm welcome to the Big BFSI Future Tech Show. Today's topic for this panel is digital banking transformation. It's a topic that's very dear to my heart. And over the next 30-40 minutes, we will try and delve a little bit deep into digital banking, its nascency, adoption in India, the overall impact that it's had on the economy from a financial services standpoint, and how COVID is actually helping banks really catapult their digital banking journey. And most of the panelists here are directly indirectly involved in financial services, so I hope we will have some very good takeaways on what digital means to us. I want to first just lay down some context here, right? I was recently reading this report from this European agency called Signicat that measures application abandonment rate in Europe. So application abandonment is if a customer wants to open a banking account, he or she goes online, fills out an application form, and midway there is an abandonment that happens in the journey, and there are independent companies that are tracking this. And the application abandonment rate in Europe has actually increased from about 30% to about 60-65% post the pandemic era. And the number of clicks that a person needs to do to be able to open an account has increased from about 70 to about 120 clicks per form. And these are some very interesting insights. So why are banks and financial institutions, the insurance companies, the mutual fund houses, why are they tracking these kind of matrices, which was never heard of in the last 5-10 years? That's because we've had a big surge in digital adoption, and consumers are always looking to equate their experience with e-commerce or social media apps or application superstores. Whereas on the other hand, because financial services sectors are very heavily regulated, we also need to do KYC, ML regulations, do the documentation verification, and so on and so forth. So it's a very interesting I would say a juncture where banks are looking to join the bandwagon. So that's the context of what we're going to discuss. To start, I just wanted to get some bare-bone definitions of what the panel thinks of digital. What does digital mean to you personally? What does digital mean to you in your organizations? Can you guys give us like an NCRT type of definition, starting with let's say Jagdish, if I can get you to start the panel.
Thank you, Deepak. Thanks very much, and welcome to everyone. Thank you for getting me on this show as a panelist. Appreciate it. So yes, it was a great introduction, and you're absolutely spot on. Obviously, the digital banking was very nascent for a long time, and the pandemic has just kind of catalyzed it into a completely different level. And fundamentally, it's like I've heard this quite often, and I quote this quite often too. It's like we used to be going to a bank. That used to be the term that would be always used, that I go to a bank. Now, that concept first changed to, can the bank come to me? Can they offer doorstep services? Can they deliver cash at my residence? Can they pick up checks from my house? And those kind of stuff. So it just changed. And that made it a lot more flexible, because it just made, there's just one location where the bank was earlier there. And all of a sudden, the bank could reach out to a wider area within around in and around where they are located actually. It's just a complete different scale when I say that I would like to reach out to everyone, anywhere, completely irrespective of the location. One. Two is I eliminate everything that is an intermediary step in the process between the customer and the bank. I mean, there is a whole lot of steps that a bank had to do earlier by way of paperwork, by way of logistics, by way of handling all kinds of sensitive documents and transporting them over very long distances. Now, all of those parts have completely been shrunk into a concept where it just says information, as long as it can flow securely from one end to the other across all the stakeholders that need that information. Okay, that just completely digitizes the whole ecosystem. You don't need paper to go, you don't need people to go, as long as the earlier concept of security, when the person was in front of the bank, the bank was sure that he's the right person who intends to open the account. There was no problem about the identity. When the person was signing the physical form, there was no problem. There was no confusion, or there was no problem about verification of the signature on the form. Now, the same concept, can the person be there virtually over a video and yet confirm that it is indeed that same person that intends to open the bank account? Can the person sign the documents digitally? Or even better, not need documents at all and do it through Aadhaar, eKYC, or one of those processes which completely eliminates need for any kind of documentation, even in a scanned form or whatever. That transition from a completely physical oriented model to a completely information oriented model has been an entire digital journey, and completely propelled by a whole host of platforms and enablements that technology providers, the customers themselves, as well as the regulators have kind of done. And that's really, in a nutshell, is how I see the whole digital journey has progressed.
Oh, fantastic. I mean, that's a great summary, Jagdish. You talked about disintermediation, you talked about taking control of the flow of data, and the fact that, banks wanting to go to the customer. And that's, I think, a very fundamental shift in the way, banks think. And I just wanted to, go over to Jitesh, who's from Federal Bank. I follow Federal Bank very closely. You've had very strong momentum in credit growth and very impressive auto and loan book. I also read that recently you tied up with a fintech company and started going door to door. I just wanted to liaison with what Jagdish was saying. What is what is Federal Bank's thinking of actually going to the customer door to door and distributing something like physical gold, right? And your partnerships with Ripple and all the kind of things that you're doing on the digital journey. Jitesh, if you could throw some light, please.
Yeah, thanks, David. Thanks for the introduction. And I think I'm happy to be a part of this wonderful panel. So I heard Jagdish. And so as far as Federal Bank is concerned, we have been a bank that has invested in technology more than 3 decades before we started our information technology department way back in 90s. And we have been always focusing on digitalization, and digital transformation. So it was a journey. As you know, we don't know where digital is going to, because as more and more technologies come, today we are using mobile banking, tomorrow we don't know whether we need to use a mobile banking. What we'll be using, probably somebody in my team was saying, when you blink your eyes with your customer or merchant, maybe the fund transfer can happen. We don't know what is going to happen. So we always believe that, okay, the digitalization is very critical for the success of the organization, and we created a digital center of excellence in 2016 to focus on various aspects. So our digital strategy is revolving around 3 objects. One is the employees, number 2 is the customer, and 3rd is our partners. So as you know, the first step of digital transformation is within the organization, within your workplace. You have to digitalize your workplace, and only then the real transformation can happen with the customer. Second is about the customer. How do we improve customer experience? How do we make it frictionless for the customer, as Jagdish was telling? How do we reach out to the customer rather than customer coming to us? How can we make this less frictional? So that is a second strategy. And third is about the partnership. So in today's environment, as we all know, as a bank, opening more and more branches in various places, etc., it's not practical, and it is not going to bring the business that a digital infrastructure can bring. So we always thought that, okay, as a bank, whether the bank will directly go and do all the front ending, or do we look at partners? Today, if you look at the market, there are thousands of innovators, thousands of fintech who are actually experimenting in specific niche areas. They don't compete within each other. They look at niche areas where there is market, and we try to partner with those entities who can give value to us. And in the meantime, the fintech ecosystem also will profit. So there is no competition, but we try to work together, collaborate with fintechs, and provide services which today customers want. As you was rightly telling, we are working with a company called Rupik. It's a fintech who give doorstep banking services of gold loan. Similarly, we work with another fintech called New Street Technologies, who work with the microfinance segment, where they give loans to JLGs microloans to JLGs, and they do the end-to-end customer servicing, customer front-ending, while bank provides the technology and infrastructure for them. So similarly, we have just started up with the neobank, and even heard Fi Money has launched a neobank application. Here, the entire customer experience is being provided by the Fintech, while bank does a heavy lifting of technology in the background, and we power the technology. So our digital strategy basically is because how can we reach out to customers in a much faster way and maybe in a much better customer experience way. Some of the core competencies of the bank will be used here, while we may not be extremely strong in what a Google does or somebody else does. So we leverage on all those enablers in the market, and we try to prosper. So mainly three things. One is employees, customers, and partnerships. And we believe that partnerships is the way forward for us, mainly because we can reach out to a large number of customers.
Great. I just was fascinated by what you said. How can we initiate a payment by just the eye movement? And I keep reading things like bionic payments in the wealth management side. You will be I wouldn't be surprised if things like this becomes a reality in 3-5 years from today. Just, you move your eyelids and, a payment can happen. Why not?
Yeah.
I want to just move to Vaibhav. Just take a little bit of a, and I will come to Vaibhav in a bit, but let's just take a little bit of a departure because we have Ajay, who's representing AMD. AMD is known for innovation in high performance computing, graphics, visual tech. You have a foundation for the gaming blocks, immersive, and so forth. And your growth in the last 1 year at the group level has been really whopping, as in your revenues and growth margins has been really almost touching 90%. What's really going on in the AMD world? Can you tell us, are you also looking at digital as a very important strategic play?
Yeah, Deepak. So definitely, we believe that it's going to play a very important role. So AMD has been a customer-centric organization. So, we listen to what our customers say, what kind of challenges they face on day-to-day work, and what do they expect being a, processor vendor, what do they expect from us? And we started this journey about in 2017, especially more into the data center space. Of course, BFSI has been our customer. We have been their vendors for about a decade or more than that in India from the client perspective. But when we started the server journey, and our aim was to build up the high performance computing, which can help the whole world to solve some of those toughest challenges. We are innovative. We are a technology company known for about 50 years now. So what we really wanted to build when we started this in 2017 was making some radical changes. People were not happy with getting incrementalization in terms of the performance, a little jump in terms of the performance. They wanted to have a big jump because apps were getting modernized. Data centers need to be modernized too. And that's where we came into play. The moment we started offering 2x, 3x the number of cores and memory, the cache structures, and the IO bandwidth, suddenly it changed. And when BFSI looked at it, evaluated the products around on AMD, they were really happy about that. Yes, that change has been bought by companies like AMD. And being an innovative company, we always have to be on our toes, and we keep doing that. The other aspect, I think, which Jitesh also, and I remember Mr. Jagdish also touched upon, is how do we make sure that while you add up a lot of to the performance, how do we make sure that everything is secure, Because security vulnerabilities, I think last, I would say 4 or 5 years, we've seen that this on a rise. The threats are on the rise. And we as a silicon company are trying to bring in security at the silicon level. So that's a very differential factor. While we give the greatest of the performance, we also try to build up the best of the security together for this kind of a market.
Fantastic. So modernization, I think, that's what Ajay touched upon largely, the way they modernized and basically just pivoted, their business. I want to just move to Vaibhav, and Vaibhav, you represent a relatively younger bank. And of course, you've had your, you were a microfinance company for over a decade, and I'm sure there must have been some legacy. I don't know how much of that legacy is in the bank at the moment, but just touching upon what Ajay mentioned on modernization, how do you actually see this? The typical technology refresh cycle, which used to happen every 10 years. You're opening a bank, you invest in a core banking technology, the technology remains, roughly fit for purpose 8-10 years, and then 10 years down the line, you start looking at refresh cycles. Okay, this is something that I need to plan in my budgets. I should provide for enough capital to be able to do these kind of large transformation. How do you look at these things? Are you, because you're a new age bank, are you already thinking cloud? Are you already thinking, React and Flutter and NoSQL and GraphQL and that kind of stuff? What does digital and modernization mean to someone like you?
So thank you, Deepak. And I will break the question into two parts. So one is what digital means to us, and second is the shrinking cycle of 10 years to 3 to 4 years. So yes, Deepak, as an organization, we are a relatively young bank. We'll be completing 5 years this September, and before that, we were an NBFC. And our journey from an NBFC to a small finance bank has been fairly exciting. We have built a very good business both on the asset side and the liability side. And from a digital transformation perspective, we are one of those few banks who are, who have successful products on the open banking and the neo banking front. Having said that, before I dwell into some of the products, see, for us, digital means customer convenience and product reach. These are the two most critical, aspects when we talk about digital. So it may mean automating our products to provide convenience to our customers, through branches or through branchless. It means making our products available to the consumer within the comfort of his home. It means end-to-end digital journeys. It means a digital only SA, digital only FD, TD, maybe a digital only CA in the coming times. Of course, today CA is a function of a Phygital kind of a thing. It means a digital only lending for that matter. Okay, it means customer's convenience. It means the customer, he should be able to sit in the comfort of his home and he should be able to carry out banking with Equitas Small Finance Bank, whether it's on the payment side, whether it's on the liability side, whether it's on the asset side. Okay. Now coming to the shrinking cycle of technology that we have been talking about. See, yes, technology used to get refreshed every 10 years, and now the cycle has shrunk to 3 to 4 years. But having said that, banks have to adapt. And it is not just because the technology cycle has started shrinking, but because of the fintechs and the neo bankings who have been posing a challenge to the banks. Okay, if you have a look, 2014, 2015, when digital banking started, or the word digital banking started getting coined. Earlier, it used to be simple information technology or information systems, and then digital got started carving out. So since then, a lot of these fintechs, have been working on the Phygital side of things. And lately, since 2017-18, a lot of this fintech started working on the true blue digital side of things, coming out within, co-branded prepaid programs, then coming out with, BC programs, offering AEPS, domestic remittances, subsequently Bharat bill payment, subsequently UPI, and so on. And then, the birth of the phone pays, Google pays, and the Paytms of the world. And some of them went on to get, banking license, payment bank license as well. And today, where we are at the cusp, we are looking at these fintechs going on to become neobanks, and subsequently at some point of time, the regulator will come in and start granting some kind of a recognition to these entities as well. Okay, we have seen NBFCs becoming small finance bank. We have seen distribution companies and business correspondents becoming payments bank. It is just a matter of time. So for banks to actually, keep up with this, I think, there is no one-stop solution. Continuous digital transformation and continuous enhancement is the key. Now, I personally feel, Deepak, that, if you build a strong scalable backend, then that should last you for a good amount of time. Okay. You need to have an intelligent and an agile middleware. You need to have an agile ESB on top of that. ESB is an enterprise service bus, and it is important that it is agile, because that determines how your outside systems talk to your core systems. And then you need to have low-code applications. So typically, the intelligence has to be built somewhere at the application layer. And the moment you start doing that, you are then able to, distance yourself from this, this technology changes, because your strong, robust backend and your agile yet strong middleware it is built from a perspective of a longevity and your agility at the front end application layer with intelligence over there. So that keeps changing with the dynamics of the market. Okay. And what is important, Deepak, is that you need to create use case driven products. So whether they, these of course have to be omni-channel, but you need to create use case driven products. Whether we are talking about mobility driven products, whether we are talking about web driven products, whether we are talking about tab banking driven products, okay, or we are talking about assisted model products. All these products needs to be use case driven, and then distribution is completely up to you, whether the bank wants to do it themselves or the bank wants to ride on a partner and then go on the fintech open banking, BaaS, banking as a service way. That's up to the bank. So that's what we think on this, Deepak.
Fantastic, great insights, very, very detailed, and it's good to know the level of detail that you've gone into. I just wanted to go across to Jagdish. Jagdish as a CIO, does some of what Vaibhav mentioned, does that ring a bell? He talked about agility, having an agile middleware, ESB, low code, no code. You're a bit of a you're a joint venture between SBI and Reliance. How do you see these things resonating with your strategy as a CIO?
So yes, that's right. So a lot of what Vaibhav just said resonates pretty closely with what we are also trying to do. And so there are two parts to it. As technologies emerge, as they evolve, as they come out, like you rightly mentioned, Flutter and GraphQL and React and all of those platforms, right? I mean, you had web, and then you had mobile, and then you had web and mobile, and then you wanted to have a mobile that looked like a web, and now you have a web that looks like a mobile, and all of that stuff, right? I mean, so and that's how these technologies have evolved. So that there are two parts to it. One is these technologies enable you to add value to the customer experience, to enhance customer experience, as well as make you a lot more agile in terms of the responsiveness, in terms of being able to put out newer capabilities, newer features sooner. At the same time, we also have to be a little cautious that we're talking financial services, payments, and those kinds of very sensitive areas, and hence aspects such as scalability, availability, security have to be absolutely ascertained and ensured before we adopt anything. So it is like striking the balance between jumping into something which has just come out and obviously has a lot of potential, and at the same time ensuring that these fundamental aspects of non-negotiable parameters of scalability, availability, security, etc., are not compromised in any way. So it's striking this balance that we always try to go forward. So yes, there at times there would be times when we adopt something very quickly, probably in a POC kind of a manner, or perhaps in a slightly bigger, wider scale. And there will be times when we consciously decide that we will not pick up something right at the outset. We will kind of just wait and watch a little bit and see that how the new technology evolves and its fitment specifically in the BFSI space before we kind of jump a little bit more deeper into it. So that's really the balance that we always have to strike in terms of these technology refresh areas, and that's a constant dilemma. You never have a silver bullet answer for it, but that's really the broad guidelines in which we have to operate.
Yeah, perfect. There are no silver bullets out there. You have to keep chipping away, keep experimenting. You'll have to fail fast. Exactly. So yeah, absolutely resonate, with those thoughts. Just want to move and get, some quick thoughts from Jitesh. I know in his opening remark, he talked about, how partnership is really the central point of, the digital transformation journey for Federal Bank. What would your advice be, Jitesh, to, let's say, financial services companies, fintech companies, which are actually looking to come together and create and solve some very interesting customer problems? What do you think are some speed bumps that one should be watchful for?
Yeah, so thanks, Deepak. So today, I think the best word is partnerships, fintechs, neobanks, all these things are actually resonating in the market. So naturally, I feel that it's important for innovators to come together and create disruptions in the banking space or any space to that market, whether it is BFSI or any other segment. There should be disruptions that makes it more attractive for the customers, easy for us to reach out to customers and make the overall cost lower. So that is imperative. That is the nature of the day. But as I work with a lot of fintechs, one of the most important things as I see is about the whole about the regulatory compliance. So it is very important. See, when somebody is a fintech or somebody is an innovator, they may not think about all the regulatory compliance when we work with the bank. So banking is dealing with customer information, very sensitive information, and then that means any entity who is working with the bank has the same level of security, same level of compliance as that of any other organization. So maybe as of a bank, any other fintech should have the same level of compliances, due diligence, and all those things. Maybe some of them may will find it difficult to cope up with initially when we say you have to bring in a lot of all this compliance. You should have a DLP in place. You should not. There should be segregation of duties in the organization. All those things are very important. Number one. Number two is all about the scale. See, when we start banking or integrating with the organization, two things can happen. When they are working with investors, naturally they have pressure to bring more customers. As they bring more customers, they should also be able to ensure that they have the capacity to scale. And also the organization, as an organization, I also should ensure that, okay, my partner is able to scale. I also have to be agile. I have to have resolution L1, L2, quick resolution, escalation metrics within the organization, how fast I resolve. Earlier, bank just need to monitor probably their net bank or mobile bank only. Today, even you're working with partners, you have to ensure that all the partners are actually supported at any point of time. 24/7 banking has become, even though it's digital and 24/7, support also has become 24/7. Your servers should, as Jagdish was telling, infrastructure scaling up is very critical when we are working with more partners, because every partner is an instance of your own. You have a mobile bank of your own. You have a neo banking partner who is another mobile bank. So the support which we give to our mobile bank is very important, that we give the same thing to our partners as well. So that is the biggest challenge. We need to ensure that we are ready. Both partners are ready for scale. And third is all about the cyber security, customer awareness. So when we are dealing with a lot of partners, naturally, our customers should also be aware that, okay, these are all partners of the bank and somebody is not duping them. And about all the cyber security, the customers whom the partner deal with, their cyber security is also very important. The level of cyber security awareness we give to the customer, the preparedness for our application or the systems for the cyber security, the front-ending apps, or maybe there are DSS, feet on street going to the customer location. So we have to be wary of the fact that they all fall in certain guidelines of cyber security. We monitor them on a day-to-day basis. What data goes to them? What data comes back to us? How do we store data? Encryption, for example, what is shown to the customer is not shown to the stored in the backend, even though there are not stringent regulations like in GDPR or something like that, but it is all the banks and regulators follow very strict personal data protection laws in the country. So the partners also should be very worried about this. So we are talking about this data being thrown. Maybe another important factor I would like to say is that some of the applications which come up in the market, they host it in a cloud, and after some time they go out of business. So they leave behind a lot of data of customers. So we need to ensure that, okay, all these things are not happening. We purge the data over a period of time. We keep data and security in a very safe manner. Do not misuse the customer data. So a lot of this education of customers and partners are very critical in today's environment. And also when we look at new technologies, also the same challenge is there. Whenever we are embracing new technologies, we also need to ensure that, okay, we should not trust anything 100%. No system is 100% secure is something which everybody should be aware, and they should ensure they should bring controls in each and every location when we deal with customers. So these are some of the things. The lot of banking know-how. See, as a bank or all the banks, they have the know-how of business. So this has to be imparted to partners and customers, and that is where the success is.
Fantastic. Great. You've touched on all the non-glamorous topics, compliance, regulator, cybersecurity, data encryption, all the things that people just take for granted or just assume. And today we know that the regulator has, really long hands, and for a good reason. And, companies that are looking to work with the big behemoths, really need to take note of these basic aspects of building a long-lasting partnership. I just want to check with Bhavna how we are doing on time, or can the panel just take one more question? Bhavna, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. So
Hi.
right now we don't have any audience questions. I was just checking that only at the back end. But if we do receive Deepak, I'd love to pass it on to you on the same.
Okay, great, good. So maybe we, if it's okay, we can just take one question. I just wanted to take a segue from what Jitesh was mentioning about new technologies, and I want to go just one panelist after the other, quickly try and get your sense on what are these new technologies that people are talking about. Much of it is just hype, much of it is just periphery, just fringe tech, if I can use that word. But they do provide use cases, and companies are willing to. There's a lot of investor money, there's a lot of VC money, when we talk about these terminologies. But what does these new technologies mean for some of your organizations? As a CIO or head of technology, what will you bet big on with a 3-5 year horizon? Let's say maybe we'll start with Jagdish and then just take it across the panel.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, there's a lot of surge and flooding of technology of different kinds and shapes and things coming into the market all the time, and it's always a little dicey to kind of sift through that and figure out what is really applicable to BFSI, and especially the kind of sensitive industry that financial services talks about, and what will help the customer, what will add value to the customer. Yes, there are, clearly the technologies of the future are ones which enhance customer experience, which make it, which bring in simplicity and ease to the customer. Like, for example, I go back to the same old example of, olden days physically, you went to the bank and later the bank started coming to the customer. They just take that exact same thing into a digital analogy. Today, the bank exists in the form of an app on the mobile phone, perhaps on the 4th page. If you have to scroll past 3 pages and go to the 4th page and have your app on the 4th page. Now, how often does a customer go all the way there and do banking in a week, as opposed to what's the number of hours, minutes, whatever that the same customer spends on a social media app? Now, can the bank not be in one place where the customer has to go to the 4th page of his phone and be there on all his other places where he is there, which is all his social media or whatever other place that he is in, and hence be with the customer more often than it is today? Okay, so that's a technology thought process change. Obviously, it requires a huge amount of thinking in terms of security, in terms of the open banking capabilities, in terms of availability and things like that. But that's really what needs to be done. Likewise, it's all about data. Again, a very, very sharp double-edged sword. The more you have information about the customer, you are able to serve the customer better. But at the same time, you have to be extremely sensitive and careful about data protection, personal data protection, data privacy regulations, etc. So within the ambit of these regulatory compliant provisions, as much with the customer's consent, with the customer's informed consent, and all of those kinds of enablements, if the bank can understand what the customer does, what the customer needs, and help the customer better where he or she is, that's where the customer gets value addition. I mean, the classical example that we always have is this carpet bombing of all kinds of offers, which are like 95% of them are irrelevant. Can that become more relevant? And that can become more relevant if the bank understands what the customer is trying to do. And second thing is, can the banks become more quote unquote layman friendly? Okay, how many people forget about I mean, even in our own homes, in our own families, where we have very educated people. How many people understand RTGS and NEFT and IMPS? Very few, I would assume, in my house. 4-letter words. What are they? I don't know. Okay. So it has to be a unique banking terminology only a banker can understand. So can get out of those terminologies and use normal human being words so that people understand this and use it a little bit better. That is really, and it's these technologies which help us to get to the customer in a simple, straightforward manner. Okay, where the customer is, where he is, what he wants, and that is where we will see a real growth in really the adoption areas, and the rest of them will just fall by the wayside. Is what I think.
Very nice, excellent. Vaibhav, what are your big bets?
So Deepak, I strongly feel that technology will always evolve, but like Jagdish rightly said, it is the adoption of technology that is extremely important, and the application of technology, how convenient you make your product for your consumer. Okay, so that is where it comes to. I believe that an omni-channel approach is the right way, because yes, the customer does social media more than he does banking on his mobile phone, and if you are able to give banking within Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and of course other social media platforms, then a consumer is more likely to do that. And I think a lot of today's neo-banking programs actually have it. Okay, so if you look at our recently launched Neo X Neo Bank, then it has it, and it has its own communities, it has support for Facebook and all those things, and we see millennials coming in hordes over there, like hordes, and most of the time the banking happens through some kind of a social media or a community board or something like that. I feel from a banking perspective, it is also important to have an agile approach. Agile approach from a technology perspective, because your systems have to be agile. I agree with Jagdish when he mentioned that regulations are extremely important, and finally it comes down to the bank to make sure all the compliances are met, because at the end of the day, banks partners are going to be creating the consumer experience, while at the back end it's going to be bank who will be doing the heavy lifting. That is where having agile at the middleware and at the front end is extremely important, because the compliances are governed at the middleware itself. API banking, open banking are technologies of the future. We can do a lot with respect to machine learning, AI, and blockchain as well. Big data is extremely important, but today, like Jagdish was saying, data is a double-edged sword. So, if I know that a consumer is actually, walking into in-orbit mall, and there are X number of consumers over there, and I can on the fly start doing them offers. Okay, now a mall like an in-orbit mall itself can become a partner to multiple banks. It can have its own platform, and it can ensure that on the fly offers can be created, and the consumer can be attracted. See, finally, it's all about spends. It's all about a transaction, a banking transaction that happens. So data is extremely important today. If so many UPI transactions are happening, then what is happening to that transaction data? Is there any kind of a cross-sell happening? Are banks doing that? Okay. Again, having said that, adapting to the data from a real-time perspective, Deepak, is also very important, because data can be static and data can be dynamic. I think, I really think that from a long-term perspective, bank need to better their existing systems and then start on, piloting new technologies before they go ahead and implement that in the long run. And wherever required, bank should, leverage upon partnerships. Because banks traditionally are a very compliance-heavy, regulator-heavy organization, and agile partners are what make these products fancy, jazzy, and glamorous for the customer, and that is how the way forward should be.
Fantastic, very, very cutting edge views, Vaibhav, and congrats to your neo banking launch. And it's great to know that you're getting hordes of people interested in, specifically in the millennial population, and getting them interested in traditional banking. Ajay, what do you think?
Yeah, so I think I've been hearing Mr. Jagdish, Jitesh, and Vaibhav. So what I can as well relate is there's a lot of data which is getting produced, a lot of data which is getting consumed at the real time. So that's where a lot of processing comes into picture. And what I see is world is going to move towards a heterogeneous compute. As of now, we try to optimize an x86-based compute on a particular device and try to use graphics or what we call as GPUs for machine learning or AI, or for that matter, a bit on blockchain. And we have ASIC and FPGA kind of a compute, which is an adaptive computing happening at the real time. Now, all these are getting optimized in a different manner. This will start happening, over a period of next couple of years, and you will see all these put together as a single building block, and that gives rise to an heterogeneous compute. So that's from the perspective of, what I call as processing power, or, from, data crunching perspective or data execution perspective. Because end of the day, these banks will expect a real-time data to come in based the customer's experience, and they would like to feed back the similar kind of a data to the customer so that, they attract them towards what they are really trying to look for. The second important aspect from besides data and compute is, I've been hearing security is very, very important, and that's going to take a front seat as well for any kind of a discussions, any kind of a POCs or any kind of a workloads people look for. That's going to be very important. Like what we did at a processor level, and we started this journey of giving secure process to the market a couple of years back, especially on the data center space. And that gave rise to a new set of computing, which is called confidential computing today. A lot of these cloud guys have been using our technology, which is real-time memory encryption, which was not happening in the past. And we're using the same technology towards virtualization, where we isolate one VM from the another one, because we are able to give the real-time encryption of the data. So far you have seen the data is getting encrypted where it's being saved, but we are now trying to give data encryption at the place where it's even getting processed. So that's going to be a very important aspect where people will utilize those kind of things, because threats are going to increase. People are going to find ways and means of entering your system and picking up the data. And every organization will definitely look for making it more secure and as much possible. Third important aspect, I think, which is very interesting fact, and AMD is very known for that, is how do you do all this within the same power, and how do you even reduce the price? You have the refresh coming in the infrastructure, and then you want to save the price as well. You want to make the next infrastructure more modernized, highly scalable, but at the same time save the price, save the cost. And that's where I think we partner with the companies like OEMs like Dell and even cloud guys like Google, AWS. And we're trying to really come and bring that value on the table for the customers so that they are really, put us into the consideration level and look for us from, all these aspects of processing, scalability, security, and reducing the cost.
Thank you so much, Ajay, for that. I'm afraid that it really brings us to the end of this session. Unfortunately, I couldn't go back to Jitesh to get his concluding views. But digital banking is definitely an area to watch out for. As they say, money is the cabaret that makes the world go around. We've had an absorbing panel and some great insights. I had fun presenting today's session, and thank you so much for all the participants, and thank you so much to all the panelists. And over to you, Bhavna.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Jitesh. Thank you, Ajay, Vaibhav, and Jagdish. What an incredible panel. One thing I have to say, with all the experience you all carry, what you spoke definitely would resound a lot with the viewers today and all who have attended. So thank you for your valuable time today.